All of the casualties were ours, and I don't think we can save all of them or nurse all of them back to health. Soldiers usually pay for the mistakes of their commanders. Ugh. Speaking of which, this little shit has quite a lot to say for himself. All my men are dead. I fucked up. Please, Doctor. Help me! You should have listened to me before, shouldn't you? General shithead. Yes, I realise I did wrong. I fucked up big time, Doctor. Please, I need your help. Please, I'm sorry. Apology. I'll accept it later, maybe. Well, what do you need? Right now, I'm gonna need a pointy stick. No, somewhere here. Here, a pointy stick. Right. Done. Let's learn something, because then we might actually be able to stop the Sontarans. Let's go! Right, let's go defeat these motherfuckers. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, Nick here, and welcome to my review of Doctor Who, Series 13 or Season 39, Episode 2, Flux, Chapter 2, War of the Sontarans. What a great episode. This is a really fun and engaging story, and a pretty simple one at that. Chris Chibnall seems to have found his feet as a writer with the show by now. Yeah, he's still got his the same issues we had with previous two series is still seeping into this story and in this episode and in the story overall. I think that's just his style of writing, but with this episode, I think he's found his groove, and I think partly doing this series as a 6-part story narrative with some episodes focusing on certain narratives more, whilst others focusing on the overall plot. I think that's working to its benefit. So the plot of War of the Sontarans is that the Doctor, Yaz, and Dan are sent back in time to the Crimean War. However, it's a time that has been corrupted by the Sontarans, who have used the Flux as a strategic advantage to take over all of Earth across time, starting with they jump in at in present-day Liverpool, and then send ships back in time to the Crimean War, to as a test or pilot go, as the Doctor put it, to see if they can have a bash at all of time and space war across Earth and conquer the Earth, and then they'd send time ships across time to conquer Earth throughout time periods. And thanks to the Flux influence, the Sontarans have supposedly always been there, taking where Russia and China and a few other countries used to be, and now it's now Sontar. Not the planet Sontar, but they've renamed it Sontar anyway, so they've taken over time. So basically, they're not in control of the Flux, but they use it to their advantage. So the Doctor has to try and stop them and put time back on track in the Crimean War, with help from Mary Seacole, now a bit more famous nurse who went to help during the Crimean War. She was overlooked by history until more recent times. Thank you, horrible histories. And now she's quite well known, not as much as Florence Nightingale. She's still going to stay the most well-known Crimean War nurse on the British side, but I think Mary Seacole's getting her her dues by being more remembered these days. And it's great to have her in this episode, and she's a really great supporting character, one of the best supporting historical characters in the series, alongside Rosa Parks and Nikola Tesla. Um, Also, what's interesting about this episode is that whilst the companions are with the Doctor at the start of the episode, having transferred back in time, they then get separated thanks to some vortex energy or something, whatever the Doctor theorizes, and Dan gets taken back to Liverpool in the present day, and he gets to see the Sontarans as whatever they're up to um, in the present day, basically how they're all starting out and all that, how it's affected Liverpool and the world. And Yaz is taken to this mysterious temple place along with Vinda, who's also taken there. And they have to try and repair these things called the Mori inside this temple. But Swarm and his sister, and also a third member of their team, the Ravagers, called Passenger, they arrive to try and cause havoc at this temple. The temple stuff is the stuff that's mostly going to play more important role later on. So let's start focusing on what this episode is mostly about: the Sontaran temporal war plot, where they take over the take the place of the Russians during the Crimean War, and also the bits of them in the present day, where they are about to launch their invasion. So the Crimean War stuff it makes this episode more of a partly historical story. I think that Flux as a whole is going to be a partly historical story due to the historical settings of certain parts of the story and certain parts of episodes. This one, it mostly focuses on the historical element in the Crimea, plus also the present day stuff with the Sontarans. So the Sontaran stuff is the most of the stuff that happens in this episode. I really liked how the story treated the Sontarans. I thought this is a very faithful interpretation of the Sontarans, like Sontaran Thrashed in Poison Sky. And I like that episode, I like how new stuff is being added to Sontaran lore. For instance, they not only is capture a dishonor, but it's also a dishonor that's punishable by execution. I don't think this was established beforehand, at least not in the television series, and so it's a new addition to the series, and the whole Sontaran honor and stuff is amped up a little bit more with the honor of the glory and the honor of the battle and capture. I think it plays into the characterization of the Sontarans really well, alongside their militaristic nature in the story. And I think putting them in the Crimean War was a pretty great idea. It's a really interesting idea to see them take this opportunity of the Flux and just invade Earth's history to try and conquer it. And the Crimean War sounds like a really great way to establish that. The present day stuff is also pretty good, as we see Sontarans executing humans. This is the first time I think we've seen that in the TV series. They kill them in battle, but I think this is the first time we've seen them execute anyone for spying or anything. So it's again adding on top of the Sontaran lore that's already been added, which is something I really liked from the series 4 two-parter when they brought the Sontarans back, which is why these two are my favourite two Sontaran stories besides the Two Doctors, but that's probably the weakest in terms of what the Sontarans actually do. It's a great story, but in terms of what the Sontarans actually do, it's probably the weakest. But other than that one, the two new series ones that focus on the Sontarans, not necessarily the ones that have them in minor roles or cameos, but the series 4 two-parter and this one that focus on them are two of the strongest Sontaran stories of the show. Well, classic series fans are going to hate me for saying that, but whatever. One thing that classic series fans will like, though, is that the costume designs are definitely harking back to the oldest Sontarans, as opposed to the blue-suited and more potato-shaped headed Sontarans of the new series, which still look pretty cool. And they were a great update of the Sontarans back in 2008. But I think after, 2008 to 2021, it's about 13 years. I think the Sontarans were due an update, especially after mostly only being in cameo and minor appearance roles post 2008. Or Strax, or just Strax popping up. And I think having the redesign helped with reintroducing them as a formidable yet still comedic threat to the universe. As that they're funny characters, they're quite comedic, and I think that's something that's just going to stick with the Sontarans, but because they're quite a silly design. But the whole bloodlust fight for war stuff is upped up a little bit and get back to what it was back in 2008 and back in the classic series. It's amped it up. So the Sontarans could be seen as silly, but at the same time, they're also a formidable threat. So looks can be deceiving, guys. Looks like with Carvanista from the previous episode. Looks can be deceiving. It can look silly, but that's the point. It's Doctor Who. Even the new series, it can look a bit goofy. And B, it's not always about the looks. It can also be about what characters are like. Take the Daleks, for example. They were a pop culture icon for mockery in the 1970s through until their return in 2005. But what's more scary about the Daleks than the design is their ideology and their desire and need to exterminate all that is not the Daleks. That's the more scary element. They are a pop culture icon design, but people are actually scared about what they stand for and how they achieve it. That's the same going with the Sontarans. They look silly, but as this episode proves, they stand for bloodlust, people who want to just go to war and kill everything and they don't care. And they've got this whole honor system, and war is their whole life, etc. It's more, the meaning behind the Sontarans is staying pretty damn true to what we've seen before. Maybe even crank it up a little bit thanks to their appearance in the Crimean War and the use of temporal time travel to try and get there. And also psychic ability, I think. I think they've got psychic abilities, which doesn't surprise me. Not only are Sontarans a great military race, but also this is post-Time War days, and they could have picked some stuff up in the aftermath of the Time War. Heck, they even wanted to be in the Time War, and there's a great Big Finish audio called The Eternity Cage that sees them attempt to do this, and there's an 8th Doctor audio in the Classic Doctor's New Monsters second box set. Was it the first one? One of them. No, it's the first one. The second one's with Ashton Venarda. First one with the Sontarans, and I think it's got the 8th Doctor Time War theme there. I could be wrong about that. That could be another early days of Time War Sontaran story. I'm not sure, but post-Time War, I think the Sontarans would have picked up some technology and skills that they could use to their advantage in their battles. So they could have gotten it here. Or they would have developed themselves. They may be stupid in some places, but when it comes to war, they can be quite tactically smart. But that's tactics. Other things they're a bit done with, as we saw with this Sontaran in this episode, when the Doctor lets it go so she can follow it back to its base and see where the Sontaran base is, and then she gets Mary Seacole to monitor what's going on down in the Sontaran base. There's another bit where Dan tricks the Sontaran into thinking its commander is behind it so that he can knock its Provic bent with a wok. Oh, Dan's awesome in this episode. I love Dan. He is fantastic. Again, he's probably not going to top Graham as my favourite 13th Doctor companion, but I think that's because, well, actually, maybe the character might, but Bradley Walsh was just such a presence in the series. He was just so lovable. But then again, maybe Dan as a character could top Graham, but I don't think John Bishop would top Bradley Walsh as an actor. But my goodness, is John Bishop awesome in this episode. He is so amazing. As I said last week in my last review, Dan is off the bat, and John Bishop off the bat, just absolutely fucking amazing in this series. And I just, oh god, he was so good in this episode. I really liked his subplot as well, where he is saved by his parents basically, and then they give him a walk to go, give some exposition, give him a walk, and he goes into the docks to try and find out what's going on at the Sontaran base and try to send some information back to the Doctor, who and they are able to get into the spaceship at the same time, or at least that's it, or at least across time, but it parallels with each other, and they're able to make a call across time and space across the ship. By the way, I love the lighting in those sets. The Doctor and Mary go on a Sontaran ship with red lighting, Dan on one with green lighting, and then at the end, there's a Sontaran commander who's discovered this communication call, and he's in a command ship area with blue lighting. This is really cool contrast of lighting. I really like that. If there's one part of this subplot I'm not so keen on, it's the whole stuff with the general. I get it. He's a angry, war-loving, well, maybe not war-loving, but war. He's determined to fight a war, and he acts very much like a Victorian general soldier would act, like what we got with the Empress on Mars. But I think once he finally worked out he was wrong, I think that's how they should have. I think they should have stuck with him, realizing, oh shit, I fucked up. I need your help, Doctor, and then just let them do it how they just let them do their thing. But at the end, we get him blowing up the Sontarans, who are retreating as the Doctor demands it after she comes up with a clever way to stop them. It's a bit of a shame. We could have had an interesting character growth from this pompous prick who's quite unlikable in some things. Not all the time. There were some scenes where he was okay, and then there were scenes where he was a prick. And I think if he had realised he fucked up and turned to the Doctor for help, that was some good character change there. But then he destroys the Sontarans himself, etc. I think we could have lost it. I think he could have realised he was wrong and would have thanked the Doctor for helping them. It just feels like he hasn't changed as a character, as a person. Yeah, we've got characters like that who just don't change. As we saw in Voyage to the Damned and Flatline, there are characters who think we would have wanted to have died, but they survived. And the other characters are like, maybe they're not the people who we wanted to live, but if we could change that, that might make us a monster or something along those lines. Yeah, sometimes the not so nice people do get out of it, but that's not my issue here. I think I just personally would have liked the general guy to just go on just change when he realizes he did wrong, and then just stay like that, as opposed to he hasn't actually changed. Not really. That, and I think the climax could have been a little bit longer with the Crimea and Liverpool stuff, but it was still pretty good. Also, Carvanista turns up to help Dan out, and I thought that was pretty cool, him coming back and helping out Dan, and the way that they handle it is pretty interesting. Although the shot where they come out of the Sontaran ship from the waste ship things they have to escape, whilst then when the Sontaran ship is being sent to crash into the other ones, which is a pretty cool way to stop the Sontarans. But the bit where it's coming to crash into the temporal Sontaran ships, and we zoom in on the crashing Sontaran ship, and then we see two figures falling out. That's Dan and Carvanista. Dan and Carvanista look so funny in that shot. The little tiny bits of CG characters falling out of this Sontaran ship just looks hilarious. They look even sillier than a amateur production fan film having some little people fall out of something or eject from something. I'll give an example. Time Agent Series 3, Episode 6, the finale, released at the start of 2012, but it would have been made throughout 2010 to 11. There's a bit where the character Dr. Robin Turner is in this jet, and he's flying around a big giant flower alien. Long story, but watch it, it's awesome. And he ejects from the jet when the flower alien smashes it, and the little Robin in the parachute just looks so funny. Floating down to back down to Earth in the shot. It's obviously CG'd a little bit, and it looks quite funny, but it actually looks better. A CGI'd amateur fan film using a piece of CGI from 2011-ish time looks actually a little bit more realistic than a big budget, or at least a moderately sized budget television series from 2021. On the other hand, Time Agent did have the advantage of the character being a bit bigger than what we've got in this shot. But yeah, it just feels a bit. It looked a bit funny that we had these two tiny little characters falling out, and it looked so silly. Not in concept, but just the way they were CG'd into it. It just the CG models just looked a little funny, more so than a amateur version from 2011. 2012 when it was released, but 2011 when it was made. So yeah, that was a bit funny. The weakest element of this this episode, I think, was the temple stuff, but that is probably due to the fact it wasn't focused on as much as the other bits, as it's going to play more of a role in the overall story. So it doesn't have much. We don't have to focus on it as much throughout this episode. That it's going to play more an important role, maybe next week or something. But it does take up the last couple minutes of the episode to tie us into later on, and I do think the elements were good here. It's setting up this temple and the Mori and these cute things and what Swarm and company are up to. I think it sets it up well, but I do think there are some missed opportunities with Yaz and Vinda. We don't see an awful lot of them as the story is focusing on the Sontaran subplot, but it is interesting to see how this is all setting up, and Swarm and his sister and Passenger are trying to take over this temple and stuff, and there's hints that this temple's built by someone, or they've given orders. It could be the Time Lords, but it's never directly stated. But yeah, there's some interesting stuff. I'm looking forward to seeing how this all plays out in the next 4 weeks. Well, at time of recording this, it's Friday the 12th of November, so episode 3 hasn't aired yet. That'll be on Sunday the 14th. But yeah, this is a interesting subplot. I still think it's the weakest element of the episode, but it's still handled pretty well, so long as the follow-up to this is gonna be more stronger. Speaking of what's coming up later, I'm intrigued to know what that house shot at the start of the episode was. It might be that house from the last episode. Diane was sucked into, but I'm not entirely sure. It's got something to do with something, mustn't it? Otherwise, we wouldn't have seen it in the shot. On a production scale, sets look wonderful, really cool. I already mentioned the lighting of the Sontaran ships. The temple looks amazing. It looks so cool, and the Crimean War battlegrounds look really great as well. And Liverpool gets used to a pretty cool effect with the location filming. I've already mentioned how great the Sontarans look, taking the more. Well, actually, I don't know if I did but I like the new. I think the new designs are great, capturing what the classic series did really well, but with modern series prosthetics with the faces, just like the 2008 ones. Because previous series, it was mainly just a mask and something, but they actually have the prosthetics to make it look a bit more like there is an actual person. They actually look a bit more real. Certainly, Sontarans, after Kevin Lindsay played the Sontarans in his two Sontaran stories, they went downhill in design wise after the first two stories, but then they popped back up for 2008's revamp, and here we go again, another great revamp. They look really cool. Dan Starkey and the other actor, I can't remember his name, they are really great as the Sontarans they play, and I just think they were handled really well in this episode, as I already mentioned earlier. Similarly, I also think the Ravager characters were also handled pretty well in this episode. I'm looking forward to seeing how they went down. I'm supposed to be talking about production. Visual effects also pretty cool. I think they must have duplicated some of those soldiers, Sontaran and the British soldiers, to make it feel like there's two giant armies, and then they just used a big group and not a huge group of extras for some of those fighting scenes, and then also duplicated them for the battle shots of these, as we saw in the those scenes. Oh yeah, that's another nitpick I've got here is that the Doctor knocks out this soldier by using a middle finger, and then he gets some sort of something in his eyes that knock him, and then he's knocked out for a few hours, and she says something or other to knock him out. I'm not really sure. I'm wondering why we just didn't have Benicio Aikido. Like in series 11, we had it on two um protagonist, but not so very nice protagonist characters. In the Ghost Monument and Kablam. I'm not sure why the Doctor just didn't do Venetian Aikido or the karate chop like in Robert or Sherwood on this guy. This could have been the third/fourth appearance of a John Pertwee style alien martial arts that he was famous for in a new series episode. I say third for the Venetian Aikido, four if you include the Martian karate from Robert of Sherwood. And I know it's Martian karate because 12th Doctor goes hike when he does it. And I think after I reversed the polarity of the neutron flow, the third Doctor's second most common catchphrase, and it's one of the pompous Doctor in him, Sontarans always goes after his most common catchphrase is hike. It's brilliant. I don't know why it hasn't been brought back full time alongside the Jelly Babies. They're iconic. Bring them back more. If I was running the show, I'd have my Doctor or Doctors use Venetian Aikido and Karate Chop and carry Jelly Babies with them. Maybe not to the extent of the third and fourth Doctors, but certainly of their respective ones, but certainly bringing it back full time or almost full time, as opposed to nod and a wink or something. Jamie Magnus Stone once again directs this episode fantastically, and it looks absolutely amazing. Next episode won't be directed by him, but he'll be back for episode 4 and then for the Centenary special, and then we'll have the director of episode 3 direct 5 and 6, and then 2 other directors on the other 2 specials. But I think this is a really great episode, how Jamie Magnus Stone has handled it, and it just looks absolutely brilliant. And yeah, I think this one just is a really great visual style, and the editing is also pretty great. I thought it was a really good and really fun episode, and just had some great stuff. I wouldn't quite pass it 10 out of 10 just yet. Maybe on a rewatch later down the line, but I do feel like this episode is an easy watch. Certainly on rewatching territory, it's just an easy sit back and relax watch. The Doctor and Dan take on the Sontarans whilst he fumbles around in this pyramid thing and meets Vinder, who I'm thinking he's got to be a more important character later on. They wouldn't have made such a big fuss about him if he wasn't going to be a big character. And it looks like he's going to join the TARDIS crew on an adventure next week, possibly. But he must be playing some sort of major role, or at least important role in this series. Otherwise, they wouldn't have made a big fuss about him at Comic-Con. But yeah, I think this is a really good episode and a pretty great one. Almost 10 out of 10 territory. I think a few kind of niggles, some personal and some that could definitely have been handled a little bit better in the episode. But overall, I think this is a really great episode. It's a step up from last week, and it's one of Chibnall's stronger episodes as a solo scriptwriter. I think his personal best is Rosa, but that's with Mallory Blackman. So in terms of a solo writer, it might be this one. If I was going individual episodes, it's this or the Hungry Earth individual episodes, not serial. If we're going with serial, it's probably it's two episodes out of 6 in so far, but I would say Flux. And we'll see how the rest of it goes. I guess he's got Maxine Alderton co-writing episode 4, but the rest of it, the majority is Chris Chibnall. Like I would say about 5.5 sixes out of 6. 5.5 out of 6 is Chris Chibnall, and next year's specials, unless 2 of them are co-written, are also going to be Chibnall written. I think he's, like I said at the start, I think he's got his groove by now, and I think the whole multi-part story structure and less crammed episodes, he's got the groove by now. As this one shows that you can have simple effective ideas whilst also in this bigger grand narrative, and you've got quite a few things going on at the same time, but they don't get in each other's way because you've got the said larger narrative that some bits can tie into, whilst other bits can and have focus on later. Other bits can be focused on in this episode and gives it a bit more breathing time and some good space to work on. And I think this episode works really well. So saying that, I will be giving War of the Sontarans, or Flux Chapter 2, War of the Sontarans, a 9 out of 10. Yeah, I don't think it quite reaches the 10 out of 10 levels, or at least not on these viewings. Maybe after the third, fourth viewings. Maybe in time, maybe a revisitation review this time next year or something, or 2023. I'm not promising any revisitation reviews of this series though, unless, or at least not until after the 13th Doctor's era is over, at the very least. But as of the original review, 9 out of 10 seems pretty fine. But maybe on later viewings, the revisitation review might go to up to 10. I don't think I would take it lower than 9 for this episode. Halloween Apocalypse has that possibility, but this one I think will stay as a 9, if not go to 10 on a possible rewatch. But at the moment, I think 9 fits pretty well. And I think that's probably what Flux is going to be if it sticks to landing, unless the next 4 episodes are truly exceptional. I'm not expecting all of them to be exceptional, though. But, this episode was a really great episode. It came pretty damn close. And I really liked the first episode. So I think we are looking at something potentially really great if we can stick the landing. So that's it from my review of War of the Sontarans. Oh yeah, performances across the board amazing, especially John Bishop. And also, this might be Jodie Whittaker's best performance of the Doctor so far, and I think she's gotten the groove as well. And also, I'm really liking Swarm as a villain. He's pretty chilling, and I'm looking forward to seeing where we go with him later down the line. But anyway, that's it from my review of War of the Sontarans, or Flux, War of the Chapter 2, War of the Sontarans, second part of Flux. Thank you so much for watching. Next time, Once Upon a Time, Chapter 3 of Flux. The title is not to be confused with the 12th Doctor story, Twice Upon a Time. Yeah, out of the titles of this series, apart from the last episode, which has been apparently leaked/rumoured, but out of the 5 confirmed titles of time of recording, and the 6th title, which is leaked/rumoured, out of them, episode 3 is the weakest by the sound of it. Because we have the Halloween Apocalypse, War of the Sontarans. Episode 3 is Once Upon Time. Then it's Village of the Angels, which has its plot synopsis as well. 5 and 6 haven't had their plot synopsises released, but it's Survivors of the Flux and The Vanquishers. Those two sound like pretty cool titles that could play into some episodes that we can speculate about what's going to happen. Episode 4, Village of the Angels, that's basically like with War of the Sontarans. You basically get what you get, or at least I presume that's what's going to happen for the most part. It's going to focus on the Weeping Angel stuff. Hopefully, certainly War of the Sontarans, you basically get what you get with that one. And Halloween Apocalypse is pretty much, again, another you get what you get with that one. Once Upon a Time sounds a bit dull, to be honest. Not only does it sound like Twice Upon a Time, but it sounds a bit dull. Not even just not telling you anything dull, just dull. Oh, it'd be interesting to see what happens where they go to this mysterious place and meet these mysterious people. And the Cybermen will be back, and it's the Series 12 designs, not the Cybermasters, the Ascension of the Cybermen ones that Ashad found on that spaceship in the Ascension of the Cybermen and revised before the Masters took over and stole his thunder. Basically, the new Cybermen that aren't the Cybermasters, the new proper Cybermen, the Cyber Warriors. We're getting them back, and I'm looking forward to seeing how they play a role, especially as their last appearance was their thunder was stolen by the Master. So I'm hoping that even though they've got to share next episode with Swarm, Azar, I think that's her name, Passenger, and whoever else might be a villain in that episode. Definitely got a Weeping Angel in this as well. So they've got to play alongside these other villains in that episode, alongside the whole story, the whole serial. But I'm looking forward to seeing how they're handled there. And I think Chibnall did a good job with them in the series 12 finale. But I think out of the returning villains so far, they are the ones he's handled the weakest. So let's see if round 2 or 3, depends whether you count Haunting Villa Diodati as standalone or part of a trilogy. I consider it a standalone serial, but it is part of a trilogy of episodes, but it's a separate one to the 2 parts that follows. So let's say round 3 for the Cybermen. Let's because the first one was Maxine Alderton. Round 3 for the Cybermen. In this era, let's go. And round 3 for Swarm Azar or whatever, and Passenger. Let's do this. Once Upon a Time, dull title, but the episode sounds interesting. The rest of the episode story sounds interesting, and with the Cybermen turning up and these interesting new villains, it could be a bit more interesting. So I'll see you guys next time for Flux Chapter 3, Once Upon a Time. Until then, thank you for watching this review of Flux Chapter 2, War of the Sontarans. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye. Oh, bonus thing. I'm wearing my Sunflower Scheme lanyard to help promote disability and hidden disability following the unwarranted backlash of the casting of a disabled person as just any character in the series, with the casting of a disabled person as Diane getting unwarranted hatred and backlash, which I found offensive if you saw my last review. So I am wearing this to support in my reviews, Doctor Who reviews, to support disabled people being cast, whether that's physical or hidden mental or hidden disabilities of any kind. It could be mental, it could be health, it could be anything. So if it's a hidden disability, then I'm supporting it, or a physical disability, supporting it. I forgot to wear it in the first part of this video, so I had to go and grab it quickly when I remembered. But yeah, for Doctor Who reviews, at least up to the end of the series, I want to wear this at some point during these reviews to promote and support those with physical and hidden mental and health and other hidden disabilities to and vanquish those cunts who basically slammed the character and the writing just because she was a disabled person on screen. And not the way the character was written, just the fact that she existed, basically, or the actress existed, basically. So, you know, I'm going against those cunts by supporting disabled people in media. Don't forget to click below to subscribe to the Nicholas Payne YouTube channel. That was a bit too sarcastic, actually. So. But there's some scenes where there were some scenes he was nice and okay, but there was other times where he was not nice, but he was okay, and then there was other times where he was a cunt. But well, maybe not that far, but and and the other characters got us go. They're not the ones we would have wanted to have lived, but we can't do anything about it anyway. And um. we've got some interesting villains and characters possibly turning up. And with some, yeah. Right. See you next time. Right, with that out the way, see you guys next time. Goodbye. Let's go let's go defeat these motherfuckers. When he was only end, Doc. No, that was stupid.